between
lovely Tuesday night, everybody. Grateful to be back with you on this Tuesday night, the second day of September, 9225. Today actually marked the 80th year anniversary of the end of World War II. Japan officially surrendered, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, some other things. It is always a pleasure to have this dear lady on the phone with us, and she answered the call at the very end tonight. I tell you, speaking of giving her a lot of notice, we didn't give her any tonight, and she's still joined. Leslie Millwee, good to have you on the phone tonight. It's good to have you always as a guest and your dear friend. It's good to have you. Thank you for answering the bell for me tonight. We had somebody back out, so I'm grateful you could come on, and grateful to have you tonight, friend.
Of course. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I don't want you to think you were my third, fourth, fifth, sixth choice. I just, but you're always my first choice. If I could get you on every night, I would. But I know you got a life out there. Hey, it's good to see you tonight. I wanted to chat with you about several things. I think the first one, I just want to, Elvis has been rumored to be alive for almost 60 years now since his death. But thank God the rumors about Trump's demise were a little bit overblown this weekend. The left was literally celebrating that he might be dead because he wasn't seen for 2 days. Leslie, they let Biden go for 6 months without showing up, and they didn't ever question whether he was alive or not. It's pretty hypocritical, isn't it? It just goes to show you the stupidity and the arrogance and the absolute insanity of the left in this country and the media. The media was in on this.
Well, I think this shows how pathetic their case and their cause and their stance is, because if you are so pathetic that somebody's not in front of a TV camera for 2 days, I was thinking somebody said, Biden hadn't had a press conference in several weeks. It was 6 months. It wasn't weeks. It was months and months. He couldn't stand in front of a podium. And yet, I guess that just goes to show you of how much the media allows him to live in their heads. I mean, if he's not there, they don't know what to do.
No, and again, I'm with you there, and he's living rent-free, but it grieves me a little bit, and I'm thinking of Tim Waltz, because Waltz was making jokes about it, and I can guarantee you, if we were making jokes about this, and I'm not justifying it because I don't think either side should be making jokes about anything like this, but they were almost gleefully hoping that this was true. And Waltz is a despicable human being, and it's scary to think that he was within a hairbreadth of being number 2 leader in this country. Had the nightmare of nightmares happened back in November and Kamala Harris got on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue tonight, he'd have been the vice president. And, look, I just what I hope is that they keep displaying this kind of behavior. And I just hope that most of the American people out there that have some kind of character and brain to them, that they will see it for what it is and respond in kind in 2028 at those polls. I do. I really do. I hope this is making everybody aware of what kind of party this is, because that's their only thing they got right now is just hope Trump dies, right?
Well, you would think, because most parties, the Republicans did it after 2008 and the Tea Party, and we kind of revamped in 2012, and that's how we won in 2016. And, the Democrats rebounded quickly from 2004 and, elected Obama. So I think there's a lesson to learn here. I just have to say, I'm surprised they're driving this truck off the deep end every day. It amazes me. I don't know if you heard the change of Ebonic accent that we got to enjoy today from Crockett.
I did.
What was funny is looking at whether you call him Don Lemon or Don Lemon, watching him watch her on display. I think that was the most hilarious thing. Go back and look at him going, oh my God, what is she doing?
Jesse Waters made a great point tonight, and I'll run this by you because it's true. Look, they accuse Trump of being a dictator. But the truth of the matter is what D.L. Hughley said. He let the cat out of the bag. Leslie, the Democrats want a dictator. They just want a progressive one. He said it tonight. He said, we want a progressive dictator like Trump. We want somebody that can stack the court, remove the Electoral College with a stroke of a pen, reparations for slaves, and just all sorts of goody lefty goodies that everybody's all about. And that's what they want. And, look, Jasmine Crockett is an example of why you need directions on Pop-Tarts and why you need directions on shampoo. And I say this very kindly tonight. I checked my head at Texans. Is how in the world did a Texan district, I don't care what they did out there, how in the world could you put somebody in power like that to represent you? See, that's what frustrates me with these politicians. Look, Jasmine Crockett's a nut, but you got to ask yourself the question, Who put her in there?
Voted for.
Who voted for her?
Exactly. I agree. I mean, I think that every day, and it's something about Tim Walz. Let me just say this about Harris and Walz. Harris, I think she was pretty easy to figure out. We've known her. We've watched her sleep her way to the top. Excuse the non-family attitude.
That's all right.
You know, we know how she got where she is. And she's a bit ruthless. She's not the sharpest tool in the shed. We know that for sure, too. But what you see is what you get. She giggled her way through whatever and cackled. Tim Walz, to me, is scarier. And let me tell you why. The true Tim Walz is coming out now. We have seen the last 3 or 4 or 6 months of him. I think, and today I was watching him do that about hoping Trump was dead. I'm telling you, that guy is a narcissist, and he's scary. He is evil. I see evil when I look at him.
Well,
I feel evil from him.
Do you think he's their ticket in 28? I think he is more than ready to run for president in 28. If not him, Pritzker from Illinois. I think both of them deserve each other, but it wouldn't shock me if Tim Walz ain't at the top of that ticket.
Well, I think the way he speaks kind of softly, he's really not a screamer. He's kind of goofy. I think that he might appeal more to a normal base in the fact that he's soft-spoken. But I think he has no ideas. I mean, listening to him, what does he stand for? And I think you could say the same about Pritzker. I mean, I find him just disgusting. I don't like anything that comes out of his mouth. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought him up, because that brings me to my next statement. There was a bloodbath in Chicago this weekend. 50 people got shot. 58 people got shot, I should say. 8 of them died. And Johnson and Pritzker both refused to get on the phone, call Trump, and say, hey, we need help with the National Guard. They are absolutely claiming, Pritzker was out there over the weekend claiming that if Trump brings the National Guard, it's a way to steal the 2026 election or the 28 election. I mean, this bunch is willing to have people murdered, and then the hypocrisy of it all. And this is the stuff that, again, drives people want to drink about politicians. He is out there saying that the National Guard is evil, when last year, Leslie, in August, about a year ago this month, actually, last month, when they had the DNC there, hey, he didn't have no problem bringing the National Guard in and shutting down Chicago, and they made sure that all the homeless encampments and all the crime was cracked down on, because, hey, God forbid that the police or the television cameras capture half of Chicago looking like Beirut during the Democrat National Convention. It probably wouldn't have been a good look for them, would it? It's a pathetic bunch of hypocrites. It's what they are.
It is, and you're right. I think they would rather die. Both of them would rather die than ask for help. Pritzker and even Baltimore. It's a cesspool. Chicago, parts of LA. Of course, you are never going to get anybody that's asked to help. I'm really surprised Bowser thanked, the president for helping with the National Guard. That blew me away. I've got to give her credit for acknowledging the great improvement. But there is a great local guy. He has subbed for Clay and Buck before. A few times he did for Rush. His name is Michael Berry, and he's out of Houston. He is a Houston radio host. He has a show there. And I met him, and I was on his show a few times when I lived there. And let me tell you, he does a Chicago update every Monday morning about how many people, and this has been for like 10 or 15 years. He'll say 8 were killed since Friday at midnight, 38 were shot, and 4 of them were kids. I mean, and it was amazing. And it's not that I look forward to bloodshed or violence. I looked forward to hearing how crazy it was. It's almost like it's surreal. You can't believe that that's acceptable by any stretch. And Chicago and Houston are pretty similar in size. And, Houston may or may not have a murder. Chicago is just such a crime-ridden place. Why they don't want help is beyond me.
Well, I know why they don't. It's politics. I mean, because God forbid that Trump comes in there and solves it, because Johnson and Pritzker will look like the people with the killers and the blood on their hands that they've got. And look, I was listening to some lady tonight. She's on a movement to try to turn Chicago red, and she made the comparison. She said the last few years on Labor Day, by the grace of God, nothing but the mercy of God, Chicago's only had like 20. They had 20, I think, shootings last Labor Day. That thing almost tripled this weekend, 58 with 8 dead.
Wow.
But it's been like that for 3 or 4 weeks now. She said that there have been at least a minimum of 50 to 60 shootings a weekend. And with this extended weekend at Labor Day, it was more violent, and it's on that south side. And Leslie, look, it's not just Chicago. There's a lawless problem in our nation, and I want you to talk about that real quick. Is it not a trend that, you got D.C., that Trump has stopped, literally, physically, with the help of the National Guard, that he's got the Washington, D.C. mayor seeing the light. She sees it. She's not been out there criticizing the Guard. She's not been criticizing Trump. She even said today, story in Breitbart came out that she told her police force, she said, I want you to cooperate with the federal authorities. I want you to cooperate with these federal troops because we're seeing results. They've not had a homicide, from what I understand, in nearly 14 days. And I think that pattern can be repeated, but you've got a systematic situation of violence while the left swears up and down that we live in a safe country. And again, 58 people being shot in a couple of days, Leslie, don't sound like a safe haven to me. You got a crime problem. It's not just Chicago. It's in every left-run, Democrat-run city and state in this nation, and you can't escape that. And I'm not giving the Republicans a pass, because there are some Republican cities that are in that same boat. But at least the Republicans admit it, and they say, hey, bring the Guard in if you need to. That's what Kennedy's saying down in Louisiana tonight.
I know. Well, and part of the problem that taints this so much is the fact that it's black on black crime. And
yes.
Somehow white people can't talk about that. And to me, as a black politician, if you're a Brandon Johnson or any of these black leaders, wouldn't you want to address that? I would want that to be on the forefront. Hey, what can we do to fix this? Why is this happening? Is it gang? Is it, what's going on that we have this black on black crime? Now, in D.C. and Baltimore, I think it's relatively easy to assume that it's a very large black population in those cities, but it's still, the stats are so much higher. And I would think that they would desperately want that, to be addressed. But, we have to do these things in secret. We're not allowed to say that out loud. And I think it's a shame. It's a disservice to black people.
It is. It is. And I think anybody, I think regardless of your race tonight, the facts are the facts. And not only that, but I think that, who was it? I think this same young lady that told Jesse tonight, she said, had this been a trans shooter, okay? Had this been a white shooter, if this was white on black crime, do you not believe that Al Sharpton would be out there marching down the streets of Chicago with a sign saying, stop the violence, get the whites off the street, take the guns away from the whites, take the guns away from the Hispanics? He would be doing it in a heartbeat. And that is the hypocritical part about this. Look, my heart is broken tonight over the deaths. I don't think it's a political football. It's about life and death. But these politicians just make it ugly. They turn something that's a life and death matter into something ugly. And they turn it into something so toxic that you can't see straight. And it just really burns me up that people are dying at the political expediency of J.B. Pritzker's political career and Johnson, the mayor there in Chicago. He's literally out there tonight. I saw him today saying something along the lines of Chicago was founded by slaves and Chicago was founded by Indians, and that they were going to hold the land, that this big, bad, evil bear Trump is going to bring the troops in there. and standing there with a straight face telling people that Chicago's a safe place to walk in. And then again, his city looks like something like out of the pages of Beirut or something out of a Middle East city after a war over there. It's dangerous, Leslie, but I don't, other than voting these people out, I don't see an end to it because I don't think these Dems are going to give on this. I just don't. I mean, even Joe Scarborough, look, when you lose Joe Scarborough on MSNBC and telling you to basically break down and call Trump, it's bad, man. You've lost. If you lost MSNBC as a Dem, you lost it, man. You just lost it. I'm sorry.
Well, the only hope that I think will help us in 2026 keep the House and the Senate is I think about how people came to the polls because when they were being told there's no inflation, you're making more money, the economy is great, people know it's not, and they voted with that. You can only hope that they see through this progressive stuff. Enough people, you're going to have your bases that are going to always vote this or always vote that, but especially if the economy is getting better. But that usually, for the most part, doesn't affect midterms. I think we have to go by immigration and crime. But I think crime's a huge thing now. And I'm glad that the president is talking about it.
Corey Aguilar just said something profound. She said, it's amazing when they protest, they never protest on the south side of Chicago. No, good to see you, Corey. Happen. No, that's incredible. That's rich. I mean, that's exactly right. And Pritzker, look, the other thing, and I'll go on to something else after this, but Pritzker claimed that he walked down Chicago streets over the weekend. He said it was just as safe as it can be, and then come to find out, he was walking around the most affluent part of town on the north side, where, it's where the rich folks live. And of course it's going to be safe up there. But, JB, why don't you walk down on the south side, on the Jesse Smollett side of town, where he claimed he got beat up by mega people,
Yeah, like we believe that ever. But, yeah, and it doesn't show the three police officers in front of him and the three bodyguards in the back. That's so ludicrous.
The other thing I want to talk to you about, of course, Trump made a big joke about the being dead today, but I tell you, we are going to miss this time of history. When this time of history passes us, if the Lord tarries, we're going to look back on these 4 years, especially the second term, and realize what a great opportunity we had to fix this country. And I hope we take it as a nation. But we're also going to see what kind of president that God put in office. And I do believe tonight it was God's doing. God stirred the hearts of the people. And the people responded that Donald John Trump would be our 47th president. I do. I've never seen a man work as hard and to be as more clear-minded and to have a feeling of making America truly great again. It's not a slogan to him. It's what he gets up every morning to do. But one of the things that happened over the weekend that's probably not going to get a lot of press, except for the right-wing media, and that is that there was a boat that had been sent from Venezuela. Over the weekend, of course, we had deployed our warships and a nuclear sub off the coast of Maduro's Venezuela.
Residential mortgage fraud, among them, one of the most serious. So he's looking at 1 to 3 years minimum, 8 to 25 years.
Hang on just a second. I had something that one of the X things started talking. But I wanted to ask you about this cartel hit because the administration, at the direction, I'm sure Pete Hegseth, the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, they basically declared war on the cartels tonight, Leslie. And I think that these cartels do not understand who they're messing with tonight. And I think that you're about to see some serious stuff go down. This boat is an oil slick in the Caribbean tonight. And if people don't think Trump...
It was great.
I think it was great. And if they don't think Trump means business, let Maduro keep doing what he's doing. And Maduro himself is going to be an oil slick off the coast of Venezuela. Because Trump ain't going to put up with it. And I wouldn't doubt if he don't do strikes within Venezuela if this keeps on. Because he's not going to let these drugs. I heard tonight, let's say this real quick and I'll give it to you. 200 tons. Think about that. A ton is 2,000 pounds. 200 tons of cocaine and meth and other drugs have been shipped from Venezuela into this country over the last 4 years because we have not done anything to confront this drug problem. No wonder our country is spaced out and drugged up. No wonder.
Well, and that's a wonderful point, because we always blame Mexico on all the drugs, and we blame China for the ingredients. But let me tell you, you're right on. Some of these South American countries, specifically Venezuela, they are hugely responsible for the cocaine end of things, and now fentanyl. And that was hundreds of millions of dollars worth of drugs. I am elated. I think we got to send a strong message. And you talking about Trump being so special, you know, I wasn't angry at God, but I have to say I question, God, why did you let Joe Biden get in there? Why are you letting our country down like this? Is it our people are this bad? We are praying to you to heal our country. And I don't think, Chris, it could have happened any other way than the way it did, for God's mercy to come
Totally
on this
agree.
country.
Totally agree. Well, Leslie, I think, just to your point, not to interrupt you, but to your point, I think that Trump would have not been as effective had he went back to back, because I think the country had to get this bad for people, some people, especially the independent voters and the ones that were sort of Trump haters, but they let their hatred of Trump get in the way of their good sense in 2020.
And the minorities.
And the minorities. And I think that he had to let it get. And I'll tell you something else, and I'm glad you brought this up. I don't think we will ever understand. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of this. I still believe they need to give us an insight to what happened in 2020 with these votes and these mail-in ballots. Look, it's not caught me without notice that Trump is going to outlaw mail-in ballots. That's what he's working toward right now. And that I'm sure that they're going to have a way for the military to vote overseas and stuff. But the way I look at it, we have an election day. We don't have an election week. And I'm sorry, if you don't get your ballot in by election day, that's just tough blank. You know what I'm saying? And you know, if you don't have the gumption to get up and go vote on election day, well, your vote just don't count. That's how it is. We don't have an election year. We have an election day. And these mail-in ballots were used to steal that election in 2020. And I know a lot of it was COVID, but I've never seen a party weaponize a virus to steal an election. That's what they did. And I think all of it had to happen to make the country taste the bitter waters of what we were headed for under a socialist type government, because Joe Biden came as close to that. And look, he made Obama almost look moderate, some of the stuff Joe Biden did these last 4 years. I'm telling you, I think it had to happen this way.
And I think we're giving him too much credit. I think it was his team of libs.
Very true.
Everything from the defense to the Federal Reserve. I find it so interesting what's happening with Jerome Powell and this Lisa, whatever her name is. Yeah. I mean, what a joke these people are. I mean, she's nothing but an activist. You know, anything she's ever written is so biased. I'm like, how did these people who happen to be some kind of a professor end up in economics for the United States of America? Are you serious?
I know.
You know, it's just the way it has shaken out. I think you can probably blame a lot of these cabinet people. I think Rice was part of it. I think Jay Johnson. I think there's probably a handful of 8 or 10 people that pretty much ran this country, because we know Joe didn't. Joe could not put one foot in front of him. Seriously.
Do you think that this redistricting, let me talk to you about redistricting. I'll keep you another 10 minutes or so. So good to have you tonight. It's been already so great. This redistricting stuff with the Republicans, I think they need to put the pedal to the metal. I know that some of them are getting some cold feet about following through, but I think Florida and Texas have shown the way that we fight fire with fire, and let these Dems threaten all they want to. Leslie, you can't redistrict a state that's already been redistricted to go 90% blue to red. You can't get no more blood out of a turnip, as we used to say in the banking business. I mean, They can't redistrict anymore. They gerrymander. They've already done it. But the Republicans have not basically done to the Dems what they did to the country, and it's about time, because this is my prediction. I'll just make the statement. If we had a straight up fair election based upon true districting lines, without illegals voting, without mail-in ballots, fraudulent ballots, without people voting 12 times, without people voting from the grave, without people doing the shenanigans they do all the time, I guarantee you Trump would have won all 50 states. I'm perfectly safe in saying that California would have been on the table. New York would have been on the table. Most of these states are red. It is the suburban areas that have been so power hungry and so corrupt that have allowed these big states to go blue. And I'm telling you, I just believe this big red wave that was predicted back in 2022, we may be headed for that in 26. Because if Trump can get this election fixed, my dear, I don't see a Democrat holding office for 30 years in this country. That's just my opinion. Maybe wrong about that.
Well, did you see where Jerry Nadler's not going to run
again?
Yes.
Yes, I'm shedding I'm all broken up about that. I'm gonna have to go find a shrink tonight and talk to, how depressed I am that Jerry Nadler is not running. And I'm gonna tell you somebody else, and I know you Iowans may or may not like this, but I'm almost glad Joni Ernst is not running. I don't think she was ever on board with really making America first. She was all about herself. And I think it's time for these rhinos to go, just like Jerry. I don't think they're they're as useless as Jerry Nadler was. So good riddance. Adios, amigo. Adios. Bye-bye. Sayonara. Ciao. Whatever you say.
Yeah, Joni Ernst disappointed me several times. Really kind of made me look up, in the back of my, hair on the back of my neck stood up, a few things she said. So I have no doubt we can keep that Republican spot. Nadler, we're not going to get that spot probably. That's the way it is. But back to that redistricting, absolutely. We have to do what they did to us in Massachusetts, Illinois, California. They've been redistricting for 30 years.
I know.
We just haven't. We have allowed it. We have always had the mentality, well, we're above that.
No, we're not.
Ethical. We know we're right, but we're going to do the right thing. Well, it's not that I'm condoning that. I'm condoning standing up for what's right. And sometimes you have to get your knees dirty when you go play ball. That's just the way it is.
Well, go ahead. And I'm going to just add to that. No, I just add this one statement of what you made. Look, politics is a nasty business. That's why I don't advise Christians to get involved in politics, because politics can be nasty. But to win elections, I'm not advocating cheating, because I don't think that is the way to go. But gerrymandering is not cheating. Basically, when you redistrict a map and you put it before the people, and if this is what the people want and they voted in, there's nothing wrong with that. And see, all these, don't you just love Eric Holder and Barack Obama out there beating the drums that, this is a threat to democracy, when they were the architects of much of the Democrat gerrymandering of the universe during their 8 years in office. And again, all these blue states like Newsom and all this bunch that's swearing up and down they're going to respond, they can't gerrymander any more than they already have, Liz. It's just nothing but hypocrisy. And look, if the people in these states, in Florida and Texas, and evidently they were okay with it because they put it to the people, it's constitutional, do it. Do it. But it's time that we put a fair playing field on the table, and let's just play. I just want to have a straight election, straight up, with no kind of interference and no illegality and no cheating. Let's just see where the chips fall and see where the American people really want. I'm okay with that.
Well, and you're right, too. Even in these states that we look at as super, uber liberal, there are huge pockets. I would say the huge majority of New is Republican. It's red. But because of one pocket of people in New York City that has 10 million people that vote, that's your problem now. But they need to stop honoring the Democrats' play, you're right. They've been doing the gerrymandering forever. We need to go and take back our seats, and we need to take back what we deserve. They did it. Let's do it too. It's legal. It's perfectly legal.
I'm with you. Before I wrap up, I hadn't talked to you since this horrendous shooting last week with this trans kid and the terrible, terrible situation in Minnesota. I want to get your thoughts on that, but I also want to get your thoughts on this crazy judge tonight, Brosberg, that released this woman that basically put a threat on Donald Trump's life, literally said that she would give up her life to fillet him and slay him in front of Liz Cheney. And then you've got Dylan Root, the absolute insane shooter of the second assassination attempt last year, challenging Trump to a game of golf and saying if Trump wins the golf game, he can execute me. If I win, I get his job. This is how insane people. Got to ask you a question. Do we not need mental asylums again? Do we need to bring back the mental asylums and the straitjackets? Just asking for a friend.
As somebody who since '89 I launched psychiatric drugs. That was one of my first jobs in pharmaceuticals. Let me tell you, I visited state hospitals, jails, Huntsville prison where there was death row. I'm telling you, there are evil and mean and crazy people out there, and we let them on the streets now. You know, we overcorrected. We went from keeping people in insane asylums because we thought that was humane. Do we think it's more humane that they sleep on a curb when it's 14 degrees outside? Is that really more humane? It blows me away. It's like, can we not have a happy medium? Someone with some brains. To me, that would be a good thing Kennedy could take on. Let him figure out how many mental health people we need to start treating some of these many homeless people. We're ignoring our vets. Our vets have PTSD. I see this every day in my job. I'm telling you, my heart goes out. We've got so many Vietnam vets that have PTSD and other mental issues because they've been, we treated them like total crap when they came home, and then it's gotten worse from there. So I would love to see, the vets get more help, the homeless get more help, because most of them are crazy or drug addicts. You're always going to have those people that choose drugs over life. They're always going to be those people. Do you put them in jail? Do you put them in a shelter? I don't know the answer to that. But I know there are two specific segments of people that we could work on and we could help, but we don't do it. And that's a real struggle.
And I think that we need to come to grips with the fact that this kid, look, the gun issue is a completely different discussion for probably another time, but people are out there arguing about where he got the guns from. The question is if the police knew about his history, and evidently there was a lot of questions and the parents kept it quiet. He was so depressed. It just seems to me that every time we get a shooting like this, we find out later that the police had some kind of eye on this person, or they knew this person was sort of unstable and they didn't do anything about it. And, Leslie, I have to lay it at the foot of the mother. I hate to be so cruel about it tonight. I lay it at her feet for pushing this child to transition. And that gets into the area of child abuse, this genital mutilation, things like that. It leaves people and kids in a state of horror. And this is what you get. You get death as a result of it. You can't escape that. That's not being cruel. That's not being ugly. But you just can't get around that discussion, can you?
No, and, people, especially males, I hate to be ugly. I think women or girls mature faster, but, the bottom line is you can't make decisions when you're 14 or 16 about your life. And it always kind of reminds me of, I'm 16 years old. Mom, I want to marry my boyfriend. But you don't know him, honey. You're going to change. Your life is going to change. No, Mom, I love him right now. And I kind of look at transgenderism like that. Give it time. See if you feel this way in 2 years or 3 years. It's a short time to pay to make sure you're doing the right thing. And this parent apparently just signed off on it pretty quickly.
She did.
And it changed the course of her son's life. I mean, that's the tragedy. That's one of the first things that jumped out at me. And the fact that she wouldn't talk to police or share information. But I mean, he comes from what seems to be a relatively normal home. But, you know, these people, we tell them they're wonderful, they're heroes, and then they figure out that they're not when they get old enough. And my heart breaks a part of me for him that he was such a depressed soul, but she should have worked with him to get help. And yeah, there's a pattern here. It's like the Nashville killer and, you know, all these things. And quit telling me it's about guns. You know, guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Right,
they just use that as an avenue. It's like knives. We don't outlaw knives. They cut our steak really well and they can stab people. But you know what? God gave us the sense to figure it out. And bad people can get guns. I'm sorry.
Well, bad people can get cars too, buddy. People drive cars into crowds and drive cars into suicide bombings and buildings to blow things up. Are we going to outlaw cars? No, we're not. And you're right on target with that. And I just say that, and it's really sad. Look, I just, you know what, as we leave you tonight, I just the investigation that I find maddening is the one into Trump's assassination attempt last July. We still ain't got to the bottom of that. And while the left is clamoring and arguing about the pronouns of a maniac killer in Minnesota, we've got a kid in the ground that tried to assassinate President Trump. And I found out tonight that 75% of the Secret Service detail of that day had failed their shooting exams. That they didn't even know how to shoot straight. 75%. That's who was sent to protect Trump at this event in Butler, Pennsylvania last summer.
Well, think of the little woman that was in front of him. You know, that was one of the first things my husband and I were talking about. How could we expect her to rush him to the ground and help him? And, I mean, she wasn't physically equipped to do so. And once again, let's be proper. Let's make sure there's an equal number of men and women ratio. And no, let's make it about safety and common sense. You know, it just blows me away. I can't believe that we're there, that we have to act like this. We are there. We are there, my friend. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on and discussing some stuff with me tonight, as always, and I'll be in touch with you. We're going to get you back on soon, and hope to see you in Oklahoma later this month at our conference, and we appreciate you. I'm going to give you a final word and wrap it up, have your final thoughts, and we'll let you go. Well, gosh, I still say I wake up every day. I can't wait to see what the man's done. I'm talking about the president. I hope he had a couple of days off because, my goodness, you're right. There is no one on this planet that works harder for this country. And you're right. We're going to look back on this, and I don't know how anyone can ever compare to him. And I don't have a God complex about him. I know he's human and has lots of faults, and like all of us as humans, but God bless him for doing everything he can for this country. And I pray every night that, you know, God gets him through and helps him to do the right thing. And I think he's surrounded himself with enough really good Christian people that's going to happen. And I am so thankful for that. I
do want to add one thing to mention to you that Dinesh D'Souza tweeted out last week, and he called a little flack for it, but he was absolutely right. He basically said that transgenderism is the only condition where the people around the transgendered individual have to agree with something that's not even real in order to treat the patient. And I think that is as well said. In other words, you have to embrace this falsehood of a man being a woman. This is how messed up our world is. It goes back to your statement, how did we get here? Well, that's where society has gotten, Leslie, that we literally have to embrace a lie to treat the transgender. That's according to the left. It's a spiritual issue to me.
True,
but that's where we've begotten, that we literally have to tell them a lie to say, we agree with you that you're female. Well, just like what they did to this killer, even after he's dead, they're calling him she. They're arguing on the networks whether to call him he or she. He was a male. He was a male. And he did not die as a female. I'm sorry. I don't care what they say. But this is where we've gotten into society. And I'm going to tell you something. This is a dangerous slope that we're slipping down because it's affecting our kids. And we're going to have more death. And we're going to have more death in Chicago. If we don't get this lawlessness straightened out, we're going to have more death in L.A., in Atlanta, Georgia, in St. Louis, Missouri, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, Miami. You can name the cities, name them all. It's going to be a bloodbath in this country. And I'm going to tell you this, I think, and I don't mean this to be blunt, Trump's going to have to deal with these gang members just like he's dealing with these cartels, Leslie. He's going to have to come down with a hard hand. And I mean, people may not like that, but if they're not going to behave themselves, I'm sorry. Some of these gangs only understand force. And you've got to show a strong hand. If you don't, they're going to keep killing. They're going to keep killing, raping, and maiming.
You have to get back to the norms. Yes. You have to let them know. We have just let them ride roughshod over us. We have to let them know that this is a civilized society with laws and Christian Judeo values, and we will not tolerate it. And it's funny you said that about the transgender thing, because I was with my son who's very conservative. He's in his late 30s. And we were talking this weekend, and I said, I used to be more flexible when I would see somebody transgender or even gay, and you acknowledge that and acknowledge them. I'm done with that because I'm going by the Bible, and I know what the Bible tells me, and we're all sinners, and we all have our issues, but I don't have to incorporate my views and values into yours. And I'm going to stand tall on that. I am tired of having that crammed in my face.
Right.
I'm so sick of it.
We cannot keep embracing these lies. We can do it in love. We don't have to be ugly and judgmental, but we cannot give in to society's view of this as believers. But not only believers, but people with common moral sense. Leslie, look, this is a spiritual matter, but it's a moral matter. But it just almost is like a common sense matter. A man's a man, a woman's a woman. I mean, we teach that to our boys when they're little. You've heard the old saying, the birds and the bees. We start teaching our children that when they're young and they're old enough to understand that. But we have reached a point in society that adults don't understand the birds and the bees. You got a problem, my friend. We got a problem. And it's spiritual. Listen, I love you. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. I'll be in touch with you. Take care of yourself. Listen, have a good night. Leslie Millwee, everybody. Put some fire in that house fire. What a wonderful guest. And she answered the call tonight, and I'm grateful for her. And we're sorry. I know some of you were complaining about the volume. We did our best to put her phone there. The phone and the mics, we're going to try to get a bigger mic for this computer. We're going to be on a desktop soon, so that will fix some of it when we're on the road. But we're grateful that you're with us tonight. I'm not going to keep you much longer. I just want to play one or two videos, and I think Leslie and I discussed how we feel about all this violence. It's a terrible thing, what's going on, and I was hoping. I sent a message out to Jake Franchise. Jake is he's not a former police officer, but he is a police officer up there in Chicago, and we're going to try to get him on the show. I hadn't heard from Jake in a long time. I hope he's doing okay. But we'd love to talk to some folks from Chicago about this situation. If you live in the Chicago area and you would like to come on the phone and talk with us, either this week or next, please give us a holler, because we'd love to talk to you. And we'll ask you how safe it is up there. And we want to put you on camera. If you don't want to come on camera, we'll do it by phone. And I'd love to talk to you about that. Now, listen, we've got a great week ahead. We got Marsha Montenegro coming tomorrow night, Lord willing, at 6. We have not had Marsha on in a long time. I have no idea what we're going to talk about with her, but she's got a few things on her heart we're going to share. And then Thursday night, the one and only award-winning cartoonist Antonio Branco will be with us, and I'm sure he will have some cartoons to make us laugh and some things to say. We're looking forward. We're looking forward to Tony being with us and so forth. So that's the next 2 nights. I don't know what we're going to be doing Friday, if we do any shows Friday night. We're getting ready to really hit you hard this fall. We're taking a few days off here and there before we actually start the blitz, and we got a lot of new stuff coming, and we hope that you've enjoyed the show tonight. I missed you last night, but it was Labor Day, and Chris decided not to labor. I decided not to labor. How about that? I'm going to come over here to my stage and do a couple of videos for you tonight, and we're going to be out here real quick tonight. This is Laura Ingraham tonight. By the way, before I get to Laura, this is the stupid judge. This is the same judge that was trying to keep the illegals in town, Brosberg. This is a Clinton appointee, and he basically released this woman from jail. She says, I'm willing to sacrificially kill this POTUS by disemboweling him and cutting out his trachea. And she further said that she would do that right in front of Liz Cheney, just for Liz's entertainment. Well, she's a free woman tonight. She's got to wear an ankle bracelet and supposed to get some psychiatric help. She needs to be in jail tonight, folks. She needs to be in jail. This guy needs to be in jail, too. This is a chilling video over the weekend. This is another one that was letting you know how he felt about Trump. We'll take.
The only thing that I wish on you, Donald Trump, is a slow, painful, agonizing death. And I hope to God your heart's the one to do it. Because if it isn't, we're all coming with a big fat Second Amendment that you're not going to get to spit or shit on this time, buddy. We're coming raw, no lube. So bend the fuck over, fat boy.
Excuse me. Excuse the language. Excuse the language. I need to start testing these videos out. That's raw video. But pardon the language for the virgin ears out there. But folks, that is the kind of people that are out there. And see, it makes me wonder, this is my thought, just Chris thought. I saw this story tonight about the trend. Do you realize there was 1.3 million tweets over the weekend that Trump is dead? Realize that? It was trending so bad. 1.3 million retweets of this idea that Trump had not been seen in 2 days, and the media, the social media influencers, all the people on X believed that Trump had passed. And then you get this clown saying stuff like this and these threats. And folks, I'm telling you something. You need to pray for our president. You need to pray for his safety tonight. You just do. Because these things tend to get snowballing. And these crazies, this guy looks like the Joker. They need to find this kid, put him in jail. I hope somebody's looking for him tonight. This is the kind of dangerous world we're living in. This is the kind of world we're living in. If you know who that is, email us or call your local law enforcement. He needs to be behind bars tonight. That's a threat. That's a threat. But it just makes you wonder what drove the media this weekend to put Trump is dead and start trending that on Twitter. Just makes you wonder. They want him dead, folks. That's their only hope to stop this Trump train that is rolling downhill. This is Laura Ingraham tonight on the violent weekend in Chicago. Roll the tape.
So over the weekend, Mayor Johnson was working hard to keep your city safe by signing a totally meaningless executive order to affirm that they will not work with the National Guard if deployed to Chicago. Your response, knowing these horrific numbers of violent crimes over the weekend?
Well, it's disheartening, especially when we keep these numbers still rising, still going up. We're still dealing with the violence every single day in the city of Chicago. It's something that we definitely need to do something about. The polls are showing that people in Chicago are favoring the National Guard coming in. And we don't believe it's a permanent solution. We know it's a temporary solution, but we need to get a hold of the crime. We need to calm down the violence so that organizations like ours and other non-for-profits can do the work that needs to be done. But we definitely need to bring in the National Guard without a doubt.
Well, you were standing just a couple of weeks ago over a victim of this horrific violence. Very briefly, tell us.
So my godson died, was shot and killed about a year ago, and they just brought that individual who committed that crime up on charges just a few weeks ago. Also, people in my neighborhood, a young man was shot and killed, and we had to have his funeral. We're always doing this. This is something that we continue to do. That's one of the reasons why I'm walking across America, to try to talk about the solutions, to bring hope and to places where there are a lot of despair. As you said, there's violence that are going on in all of our major cities, and we have to do something about it. And so we have to take a stand, and unfortunately, we have to bring in the National Guard when necessary.
When necessary. My question to you tonight, and this goes beyond Chicago. Does Trump need to bring the Guard into Chicago and these other cities, with or without invitation? I know there's some constitutional hurdles that he's going to have to clear. One judge tonight in L.A. has basically said that he can't bring the Guard there. But what he can do, he can bring the Guard in to protect buildings. If he considers that there's federal buildings under threat, he don't need Pritzker's permission nor Johnson's. I think Congress needs to step in, and I think they need to discuss what's going on. Look, if the American people are under threat, I think Trump has got more than ample constitutional ability to do what he's got to do. And I'm sure his lawyers are going to figure this out and do the right thing. This is Judge Janine. These are the figures. If you don't think it's working, ask Judge Jay how things are going. This is today in D.C.
Hi, everyone. It's Judge Janine. It is Tuesday, September the 3rd. After the Labor Day weekend, there were over 200 arrests and almost 20 guns that were seized as a result of the surge of President Trump to make D.C. safe. Last night alone, there were 70 arrests and 3 guns seized. So that makes a total, folks, of 1,669 arrests since the surge began, and a total of 168 guns that are off the street and cannot be used to kill or maim or shoot someone. Now, unfortunately, there are 104 homicides that have been committed up to this point, but we continue to fight the fight. We continue to try to make D.C. safe. And I think what's interesting is we're starting to see fewer felons in possession of guns. But I'll get back to you on that. I'll have more on that in a couple days when we analyze the stats. But anyway, thanks for watching.
Thank you, Judge. That's because of Trump, folks. Media's not going to give him credit for that. But I tell you somebody that is giving him credit for it tonight, and that is the mayor of Washington, D.C. She told her police force tonight that you need to cooperate with the feds, because what they're doing is working. This is Joe Scarborough this morning. As I told Leslie, when you lose Joe Scarborough on the left, you screwed.
Concern is you have leaders in Chicago that see this. As you say, we've been reading about this for years now. Every weekend, and maybe crime has gone down. But, we had the mayor of Chicago on last week saying, we don't need any more police officers. Police officers aren't the answer. No police officers. I think he said no 5 times. You look what's happening this weekend. You look so, I actually think that J.B. Pritzker should do something radical. I think he should pick up the phone, call the president, and say, and I know, you don't have the constitutional authority to deploy the National Guard here and to police you can do that in D.C., you can't do that in Chicago. But let's partner up. These are the most dangerous parts of my state. We would love to figure out how to have a partnership that's constitutional, that respects the sort of balance of federalism between the federal government and the state government. And let's work together to save lives. Because right now, hey, nothing to see here moving along. No problem here. Hey, Donald Trump, we don't need you. And, the mayor talking about we're going to protect people's dignity in our city. Well, protect their lives. That's protecting their dignity. It would be radical for us to figure out a way to actually do what I've been saying from the very beginning on Washington. And that is seeing politicians creating partnerships that protect their people. Yeah.
Joe, they're not going to do it. And by the way, that number right there was this morning. The figure has went up to 58 now and 8 dead in Chicago. This is the Chicago residents tonight. This is how the people feel. We're going to get more people on from Chicago, hopefully, to talk about this. This is how the folks of Chicago feel about this wonderful utopia of peace.
I'm Black 52. I'm not oppressed. Ain't nobody oppressing me. America is more free than it's ever been. Right. And every black person know that. Amen. Right. So they keep listening to somebody make you think they going through this. Some little young 19-year-old black person, they've been through this. They ain't been through nothing. They're creating it. They're creating a problem that does not exist, like they're talking about. Is there racism? Of course. But overall, do you understand how far we've come? Do you understand how far we've come? We have now in America, white mothers and fathers are allowing their daughters to marry black folks. Y'all know this stuff that don't exist like it used to. Years ago, a white girl could have never. I'm married to a Caucasian woman, the most beautiful woman in the world. So all this talk about racism and all this, don't listen to it. It's a lie.
And that was not our Chicago guy. That was from another guy talking about the racism issue. That's a whole different discussion for another night, but it was worth playing it. But good points. He made some good points there. I don't want to get into all that tonight. Here is Johnson speaking to Joe Scarborough just a couple of days ago. Roll tape.
Policing alone, you've told me everything else you want. I'm curious, and this does come down to an ideological difference between people. Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing.
All right. The same mayor tonight. You know who he's blaming, by the way? We're going to wrap it up on this. Got one more video to show you after this. You know who he's blaming for the violence in Chicago tonight? You want to take 3 guesses and the first 2.5 don't count? Do you know who he's blaming? He's blaming Trump. He literally went out there tonight and said if the Republicans would take the guns away in the red states and have stricter gun control laws in the red states, his city wouldn't be a war zone. So, by Brandon Johnson's logic, I guess if you go out to Idaho tonight and Montana and take all those hunter rifles out of the hands of those hunters that have those guns legally, then somehow or another 58 people wouldn't have gotten shot in Chicago over the weekend. And now he's telling you that the reason his country looks like Beirut, his city looks like Beirut, is affordable housing. Who, by the way, that wouldn't be a problem if Brandon Johnson and Elliot Pritzker wouldn't have made Chicago a sanctuary city for illegals and a sanctuary state.
Look, okay, but that's not the question I asked. My question is, and I just need a yes or a no, do you believe the streets of Chicago would be safer if you got all of those other extraordinary programs put back into place, which do have a history of being successful, if that's complemented by having 5,000 more cops on the streets of Chicago?
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you that all of these other social programs are extraordinarily important. I just need a yes or a no, and then this will be the last time I ask. If you get all of those other social programs that 800 million that New York City does, Los Angeles, other people do with great success, would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make...
He asked him 3 times. That's a yes or no question. That's a yes or no question. See, folks, this is why Trump has to even consider sending the National Guard in. If the Washington, D.C. police would have been doing their job, you wouldn't have had federal troops marching down the street in D.C. And I think this Washington mayor saw the light. Well, this wonderful, wonderful, qualified leader, Chicagoans, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? I don't want to answer that question tonight. But anyway, no, he cannot answer a simple question. If they were doing their job, and the reason they're not doing their job is him and Pritzker himself. They don't want 5,000 police. Joe Scarborough, look, I've got no love lost for Joe Scarborough. He is a liberal hack. His wife is a liberal hack. They hate America. They're just a part of the flotsam of the news media. I have no respect whatsoever for that network, none. But he's asking the right question. He's asking, in this case, he is right on target. And when the left starts coming to the light and they start seeing this for what it is, then maybe there's a little glimmer of hope that things will change in these left-wing, left-run cities. He's asking him the million-dollar question. Brandon, with 5,000 more police officers, which Chicago probably can't afford right now, but would they not help curb crime? You don't want the National Guard. You don't want federal troops in your city, but you've got a war zone in your city. Put 5,000 more police officers on the streets. This man cannot answer that question, and he won't answer that question. This is this is why people are dying. The blood of these people are on his hands. I hold him account. He's responsible for the deaths this weekend in Chicago. And Pritzker, if you're listening to me, if you'll take the donut out of your mouth and the Pillsbury Doughboy commercial out of your repertoire, you're responsible too.
Sure that our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number around police officers is the answer.
Well, explain to us what you think is the answer, sir.
I'm saying it's policing and affordable housing.
So Fred Sanford would say. Jeannie Castellanovi, if you're out there tonight, I can't even listen to the rest of this crap. I need to get me a Fred Sanford gif. I need to. You know, that's
elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. Let me tell you what happens, folks. This is where we're headed as a country. If this stuff don't get stopped, if this crime don't get stopped, what I'm about to play to you, it's a warning. It's going to be graphic video. There were 3 kids that tried to break in to a home. We're right at an hour and 7 minutes. We're going to be done in about 10 at the most. Listen to me. It's 3 kids, 3 punks that they thought they were going to go bust into a man's house the other night. And they found out the hard way that crime don't pay, but it wasn't the police. This is what I'm concerned about that's coming. If we don't stop this crime, roll the tape. Graphic warning. If you're a little squeamish about stuff, close your eyes, close your ears. Roll tape.
A homeowner SHOT and killed 3 teenagers who were breaking into his house. Now their parents have filed charges against the homeowner, demanding that he be arrested. According to the police investigation, the 3 individuals were Isaiah Reed, 16 years old, Jaime Hernandez, 15 years old, and their 16-year-old accomplice. At 4 a.m., they wore masks and carried GUNS, attempting to force their way into a homeowner's house. Despite a sign at the homeowner's door stating, "Trespassers may be SHOT," the homeowner quickly took countermeasures to protect himself. All 3 were hit. 1 died on the spot, and the other 2 died in the hospital due to severe injuries. After the incident, the parents of the 3 teenagers demanded that the homeowner be prosecuted, claiming that he had taken their 3 sons' lives and arguing that his counterattack was inappropriate. However, multiple witnesses confirmed that it was the suspect who first shot at the homeowner, and the homeowner only fought back in self-defense. The police also concluded, based on Georgia's self-defense law and the Stand Your Ground Act, that the homeowner's actions were a legitimate act of self-defense.
Yep. Let me give the criminals out there a little news flash tonight. You bring your punk selves into homes trying to break into them. And let me say this to the parents of these kids. I regret the kids got killed. But let me come back over to my screen and let me just say it to you like this. Granddaddy Chris, Papa Chris, whatever you want to call me, listen to me, and the smart aleck in the chat room. You wasn't blocked until you started being a smart aleck. But anyway, let me Come to Daddy Chris. Listen to me, criminals. Listen to me, kids. Listen to me, teenagers. Listen to me, punks, thugs. You bring yourself into a home trying to do harm to the owner, and you try to break in and rob somebody, and that owner has a gun and he shoots your sorry carcass dead. I got no sympathy. None. I got no sympathy for the parents tonight. I hate they lost their boys, but maybe their anger should not be at the owner of the house. You see them in the courtroom? They were not upset at the fact that the boys tried to kill the man. The boys had guns too, evidently. They were shooting back at the man. The man shot them. One of them died instantly. Two of them died in the ambulance. It's my home state of Georgia. We got a stand your ground law down there. We got a self-defense law. It breaks my heart that these boys are dead. But let that serve as a lesson that if we don't get this crime under control, you're going to see more and more of that of people taking the law in their own hands. The man was justified what he did. There's nothing wrong with what he did. And if it had been my house and people were breaking into my house, they would not be leaving alive. You're not going to leave alive. You can snort, pee, crap, turn around, vomit like Linda Blair of The Exorcist. You can jump up and down and say, you got no right. Oh, yeah, I do have a right. And so do you to defend your family from evildoers. You've got a God-given right to protect your family from that. And what's sad about it, folks, when you get down to it, you know, we talk about government's role in our life. We talk about what the government's there for. This is what the government is supposed to be doing. This is why we have municipalities. This is why we have the powers that be. It's what the Bible talks about in Romans 13, that he that executeth the sword does not execute it in vain. And it's not a threat to the one that obeys the law. It's a threat to the lawbreaker. You can read that in Romans 13:1, by the way. And folks, I'm not justifying people taking the law in their own hands, but we're getting to the point in society, if the police are not going to protect us, who is? Who is? That's just a little reminder tonight. Just a little reminder. You break the law, you try to break and hurt people, this is what's going to be the end of you. It's what's going to be the end of you. It's what's going to be the end of you. They won't be doing it again. I can tell you that. They won't be doing it again. Let's see here. A couple of statements. Man, we don't get 100% on anything, but literally 100% agree that Trump needs to send the guard to Chicago. Well said. Well said. Let's see here. Let me get this out of the way and clean this garbage out. Hang on just a second. CJ, I want to read your comment up there. Let's see here. Biggie, you said that I'm wondering if we have any volunteer police officers like we volunteer firefighters. Diggy, that's a great question. I don't know. I will tell you this. I don't know if that's going to help. Look, we've reached such a point, because let me tell you what's going to happen in these blue cities. Look, Joe Scarborough asked Johnson, he said, will 5,000 police officers not do the job? Can you not bring 5,000 police officers into the equation that will try to stop the crime? He couldn't even answer that. His idea is, no, we don't need 5,000 police officers. We just need affordable housing. So that tells me that even if there were volunteer police officers that wanted to help, they couldn't. They tie their hands. The cities would stop them from helping. So your question is legitimate. But I don't think that the blue cities would allow them to do it. I don't think these blue cities would even allow them to do it. So I'm with you on that. Let's see here. And Biggie, I don't agree that he's a vigilante. I don't believe that man was a vigilante at all. The man was just defending his house. That's not vigilantism. No, vigilantism, if you go out of your way to go hunt down criminals and you go out in your way at night without any kind of legal reason to go do that, that's vigilantism. Self-defense is not vigilantism. That man if he did not do what he did, he would be the one that would have been in that ambulance, not those 3 boys. Not those 3 boys. So your statement about vigilante does not apply to that situation. It just does not. CJ, you said you see Pastor Corey got it right. There is a man with just plain common sense. Bravo, Pastor. That's exactly right. I wish I was more like him. Debbie says nobody told Maxine Waters Trump was dead. She's still trying to impeach him. Isn't it rich tonight? She is, Debbie. She's wanting to plead the 25th Amendment. It's amazing. Joe Biden went 4 years. Not one Democrat or Republican even put it to a vote on the House floor to invoke the 25th Amendment for Joe Biden, who had his hand on the nuclear codes and couldn't even tell you where those codes were probably. Probably wouldn't even run the country. But Trump, that's what Maxine, that's why they call her Mad Max. That's why they call her Mad Max. That's how it is. Cedric, you're asking about a militia. I don't know about that right now. I think Trump's got it under, he's got it under control if the people will let him. Will probably let him. Let's see, Carol, I'm looking for your comment here. She says, it seems like some of these judges are part of the problem. They're all the problem, Carol. The very fact that this judge would let that woman see the light of day and claim that she needs to get a shrink and put an ankle bracelet on her, I would like to have seen that same judge. If one of us, if anybody in this chat room, anybody listening to me tonight, had said those same words about Joe Biden and went before that same judge, I wonder if he would have given us the same leniency about that. Or Barack Obama even, or any Democrat leader. Because look, you can't threaten even an ex-president. You realize, I mean, an ex-president, you go out and say, I want to do something like that to Bill Clinton or any former president, you're going to go to jail. You don't do that. It's not wise. But he literally said, you get to pass go and get to collect $200. Just go see a shrink and I'm going to put an ankle bracelet on you. And I don't even know how long that he's going to make her do that. That lady should be in federal prison. So the Secret Service should have her locked up. And Judge Brasborg needs to be impeached. He's not going to be. But your point is well taken. Your point is well taken, as it always is, friend. Boy, the ethics, honor, integrity, minority pride, morality pride was busy tonight. Woo! Lord have mercy. Anyway, let's see what we got over on Facebook tonight. Pat and Deb, you're asking what were they doing out at 4 a.m.? They were trying to rob a man's house. That's what they were doing. That's what they were doing. And I don't mean this to be light, folks. I'm not trying to make fun about it. But those boys won't be doing it again. Shame. They found out the hard way that robbing people at 4 o'clock in the morning doesn't end well. Doesn't end too well. But the parents being mad at the guy for doing what he did was the rich part to that. Sort of ironic, isn't it? Hypocritical. Lane says, quit sending federal tax dollars to these cities and build a fence around the cities so the Democrats clean it up. That'd be ideal, Lane. I don't know if people would go for it, but that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Let's see here. Good to see Chris Davis in the house tonight. Let's see what else we got going in here. Christine says, didn't people pass away from the same thing? They tried to take another's life in the same manner. Christine, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I'm sure that has probably happened. But, folks, let me just say this about our comments tonight about Chicago. They are not disingenuous, nor they are hypocritical. We're just wanting to see, and you know, I'm gonna be fair. There are, I think we said it, and this is how I know why I know we were not being hypocritical. I even told Leslie Millwee, if people would have been listening, that the Republican cities, the red cities that have a crime problem, they need the same thing done to them. They need to have federal help if they can't keep the crime down themselves, Because a lot of these Republican cities have got mayors and governors that are weak, and they don't care about crime, and they need to care about it. Baton Rouge, Louisiana, got a lot of family, friends down there. Is one of the most violent cities in America. It's in the top 5. I guarantee you, if John Kennedy has anything to do with it, if Trump went to Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, and said, hey, I need you to help me get this crime situation in Baton Rouge straightened out. I need you to go to talk to the mayor or talk to the governor. We need to get this worked out. If you call the governor up tonight, I've got a feeling the governor in Louisiana, who's a Republican, say, bring it on. Bring it on. It's not hypocritical. No, it's only hypocritical to a liberal. And it's only disingenuous to people that don't have a brain and don't have an understanding that people are dying on the streets of Chicago every single freaking week because the mayor and the governor don't give 2-bit pins about protecting their people. And he's more worried about taking his weight loss shot and his calories and his carbs and his donuts than he is the blood on his streets. That's the ingenuous part. That's what the ingenuous part is. But anyway, I'll leave that alone tonight. I'll leave that alone. Yes, Corey, that is the same judge that ruled those immigrant children must remain in the U.S. rather than being returned to their parents. And he is the same one that tried to keep Emil Garcia in here. All righty, I'm done for tonight. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you, Leslie Millwee, for being with us. Good show tonight. Talked about a lot. And we got a couple more good shows this week. We got Marcia Montenegro early tomorrow night, Face Show tomorrow night. And then Thursday night, we'll do this all again with the one and only Tony Branco. You will love Tony. Most of you know who he is. He's the award-winning cartoonist. We had a great audience tonight. And we hope you enjoyed being with us on the McFiles with Christopher McDonald. Christopher O. McDonald. And if you enjoyed yourself, put some fire in that house for me tonight. Be with us again tomorrow morning. We'll be on the Faith Network tomorrow. We thank you for joining us on the McFiles Faith and News Network. Folks, I wanted to say this again. We're not gloating at the death of these 3 boys. I know that there's some imbecile out there that probably thinks that, and let them think what they want to think. I'm not gloating about this, but what I am doing and the reason I showed that video, I'm telling you folks, we're going to wind up with a society that's going to have to start doing that, and you don't want that. I don't want that. The society don't want that. None of us want that. That's why we have police. That's why we have sheriff's deputies. And that's why we're supposed to have mayors and governors that know what they're doing. To make sure these things, if the city's got a crime problem, that the crime is stopped. Just some common sense, which is at a premium these days. Our prayers for those boys' family. But I'm going to tell you who I'm praying for. I'm praying for the man that shot him, because he's got to live with that. But he did the right thing, because if he wouldn't have done what he done, he himself would have died that night. He himself would have probably been dead and been in that ambulance. He had a right to defend himself. And so do you tonight. Just remember that, okay? Be safe out there. And pray for your country. Pray for Donald Trump. Pray for your families. I'm serious, folks. I mean that. Be safe. Be safe. Protect your families tonight. We're in a dangerous, dangerous country. And President Trump can do so much, but it's ultimately going to be up to us to protect ourselves. Because we've got leaders over us, sadly, in the local and the state levels that don't care. To tell you what, if you're in Chicago, they don't. And other cities as well. All right, I'm done. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed. Take care of yourselves out there, and we will see you back here tomorrow for another round. And then Thursday night with Tony Branco after that. Not sure what we're going to do this weekend, but listen, we'll be around. God bless you. We love you. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.